Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Wanda, Mikita and Nami? Part 2. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. With Will. While Naruto, Luffy and Kurama were fighting against Crocodile, Will and the others were making their way towards Alubarna on Gamabunta's back. "I spy the enemy," Usopp yelled out as he pointed at the city, where nearby there was a group of people. One was a blonde woman holding an umbrella in her hands, with lemon earrings and a dress with lemons on it. This was Miss Valentine. A man was next to her. His hair was in dreadlocks, while he wore glasses over his eyes and he wore a brown trench coat. This was Mr. 5. A second woman was quite obese with red hair and sunglasses over her eyes. This was Miss Merry Christmas. A second man that was quite tall and fat stood next to her. He had short blonde hair, a green shirt and black pants. There was also what looked like a bazooka on his back. This was Mr. 4. A third woman with dark blue curly hair wearing a dark brown short long-sleeved jacket with beige-colored fur brims, with a bikini top describing an unusual spider web-like pattern across her abdominal area, low-riding pants, and platform sandals. This was Miss Doublefinger. A third man stood next to her. His hair was shaven, and he wore what looked like a karate gi that was left open. This was Mr. 1. Bone Clay was also there with them, and he was panicking as they all spotted Gamabunta hopping towards them. "What the heck is that?" Bone Clay yelled in a panic as he pointed at the giant toad. "Toad," Mr. 4 said slowly and with a dumb tone. "No shit, you simpleton." Miss Merry Christmas yelled out, hitting him on the arm. "So what's the plan?" Chopper asked Will as they approached the city walls. "The plan is that we deal with these morons, while Vivi is escorted to the palace by Gamabunta," Will said with a smirk as she made some sparks appear in her hand. "But won't he crush a few buildings in the city?" Zoro asked with a peaked eyebrow. "And what about all the people in the city too?" Sanji added. "I can make it to the palace with a jump, you brats," Gamabunta yelled out. Oh, I have an idea. Why not have Gamabunta threaten the two armies to stop fighting?" Chopper asked with a smile as he held up his hoof. This got silence from everyone before Will smiled and nodded. "Okay Gamabunta, can you do that? I'm sure Vivi here can arrange you the best sake for that," Will asked the giant toad. Gamabunta smiled at this. "You got a deal," he yelled as they approached the wall. "Let's do this," Zoro yelled as he jumped off the toad towards the enemy. "Wait for me, Mosshead," Sanji yelled, following after him. I'll stay with," Nami was saying before Will grabbed her and jumped off the toad. "Wait for me sis," Chopper yelled as he turned into his reindeer form and followed them. Usopp turned into his full eagle form and took off. "You all better survive," Vivi yelled as Gamabunta carried her into the city. "Don't worry my beloved Vivi, we will," Sanji yelled out in a lovesick way. "And after this, maybe you, me and Naruto can celebrate stopping the war," Will said with a cheeky grin, causing Vivi to blush at her words. Gamabunta then turned and hopped off into the city. As everyone fell towards the enemy, Usopp took aim with his Gatling guns under his wings. "Caw-caw," Usopp yelled with a laugh as he fired at the enemy, making them scatter. "Watch where you're firing that crap, you," Miss Merry Christmas was yelling before Will zapped her. "Die goblin," Will yelled in a panic as she zapped the woman. This caused Miss Valentine and Bone Clay to start laughing, with Mr. 4 having a clueless look on his face. Before Sanji kicked him in the face hard, knocking him out. Mr. 1 clashed with Zoro and glared at the swordsman. "There is no swordsman good enough to cut me, pirate," Mr. 1 said as his fingers turned into blades. Zoro smirked at this. "I think Mihawk would disagree with that statement," he said as he swung his swords at him, causing sparks to appear as they clashed. Miss Doublefinger scowled as she charged at Nami as her fingers turned into spikes. "Finger stinger," she said as she thrust her spiked fingers at her. Nami readied her claim, attacked and was already unleashing hot and cold bubbles into the air. As Miss Doublefinger slashed at Nami, Nami faded away. "What the?" Miss Doublefinger said in shock. "Barrage tempo. Not that good for attacking, but it's good for a distraction while my real attack gets ready," Nami said as she smiled as a cloud formed above Miss Doublefinger. "Why, you little," Miss Doublefinger was saying before Nami threw a lightning ball at the cloud. "Thunderbolt tempo," she yelled out as the lightning ball went into the cloud. This caused the cloud to fire a blast of lightning down at Miss Doublefinger, striking her. "Ag!" Miss Doublefinger yelled in pain as her body smoked as she slowly readied herself to charge at Nami. "Heh, I expected that to finish you," Nami said with a nervous chuckle. "You're so dead, you little bitch," Miss Doublefinger yelled angrily as she glared at Nami, not noticing Will appearing behind her in midair, her leg charged with electricity. "Hands off my future beat buddy," Will yelled out as she swung her leg. The beep or you miss Doublefinger was yelling before Will's foot struck her in the face, sending her flying. This sent her towards Mr. 5 and when she hit him she bounced off him and slammed into Miss Valentine before finally hitting Mr. 4. You okay? Will asked Nami as she floated in front of her. Yay. Thanks for the backup, Nami said with a nod as she sighed in relief. Good. You're getting more training, Will said simply. Nami groaned at this and started to cry pathetically as she sank to her knees. Bone Clay was attacking Chopper nearby while he dodged him and did his best to avoid him. Hold still. Bone Clay yelled out as he struck at Chopper while dodging him. No way. I don't want to fight you. Chopper yelled back as he dodged. Yay, besides this is a waste of time since Naruto, Luffy and Kurama probably have already killed Crocodile, Will said as she flew over. Oh please, you think we're gonna believe that? Miss Merry Christmas yelled out as she got up, her body still smoking from Will's attack. Miss Christmas. Mr. 5 said as he pointed up at the sky where there were rain clouds forming. What the? Did someone use dance powder? Miss Valentine asked with a raised eyebrow. Oh good. Luffy, Naruto and Kurama dealt with crocodiles, Zoro said as he finished his fight, leaving Mr. 1 on the ground, bleeding from his chest. Miss Valentine paled at this as they all knew the crocodile used his power to keep the rain away. So if he was defeated, then what chance did they have? I surrender. She yelled out as she held up her hands. Yay, I'm not getting paid now. And I don't have a death wish, Mr. 5 said with a nod of agreement as he held up his hands too. Good to know all of you aren't morons, Sanji said as he lit a cigarette. What about you, ballerina boy? Will asked as she glared at Bone Clay and cracked her knuckles threateningly. Bone Clay looked at Will before he looked at the other Straw Hats, still ready to back her up. Yay, I'm done. Besides, I don't want to hurt my friends, Bone Clay said with a smile. Glad to hear it, Will said as she smiled. Before she slugged Bone Clay in the head. What was that for? Bone Clay yelled out in pain as he held his head. That's for flashing everyone with my body. Will bellowed out in a rage. Run away. Bone Clay yelled as he ran off away from Will. You traitors. Miss Merry Christmas yelled as she charged at Miss Valentine with her mole claws since she was the closest. Before something blocked her way and slammed something into her chest. Rasengan. Naruto yelled as his attack drilled into Miss Merry Christmas and sent her flying into the city wall nearby, embedding her in it from the force. Naruto then made clones before they walked over to the Baroque Works agents and slapped seals on them to make sure they couldn't use their powers, then tied them up. Naruto then turned to look at Miss Valentine. Are you okay, miss? He asked as he smiled at his fellow blonde. The blonde woman's response was to smile and to gain hearts in her eyes before she hugged Naruto's arm, causing her breasts to press against him. Well, aren't you a strong man, stepping in to save a woman like that, she said with a wide grin before she rubbed her head against his shoulder. This got a groan from Zoro, who put his katana away. Oh great, it's a female version of you, he said as he looked at Sanji. Sanji ignored this and started to bash his fist on the ground in frustration. Why are they all falling for him? What does he have that I don't? He yelled in frustration. He's not a desperate loon. Usopp asked as he landed on the ground in his eagle form before changing back to normal. Yay, women hate desperation. That's what sis says, Chopper said as he nodded in agreement. Ooh, a new playmate, Will said with a grin before Nami slapped her in the back of the head. Where are Luffy and Kurama? Nami asked Naruto while Will rubbed her head from Nami's smack. Suddenly Luffy and Kurama dropped on the sand, with Kurama landing expertly in a crouch while Luffy landed face first in the sand, embedding his head in the sand. If you're gonna go out of Sage mode, then give us a warning, damn it. Kurama yelled as he got up and grabbed Luffy to pull him out of the sand since his head was stuck. Naruto chuckled sheepishly at Miss Valentine. It's no problem, miss. You have quite a strong grip, don't you? He said as he tried to get loose from her. Call me Mikita cutie, and I'm more than just a pretty face. I was paired with the 5th strongest member of Baroque Works, the now named Mikita said. You lost to the sniper, pre-devil fruit, Mr. 5 said flatly, finding her bragging insufferable. Zip it, booger bomb, or I'm crushing you flat to match your brain. Mikita yelled at the bomb man before she looked at Naruto with a kind smile. You don't look that heavy, Naruto said with a chuckle at Mikita's switch from anger to kind. Well, aren't you a sweet talker? But I have a devil fruit, the kilo fruit, Mikita said. So you can change your weight? Naruto asked curiously. Mikita nodded at this, glad that Naruto was interested in her. As fun as it is to hear about your new stalker's powers, we need to go see if Vivi is okay, Zoro said simply. Oh, you're a friend of the princess. Then you may want to take care of that bomb the boss set up in the clock tower, Mikita said as she looked at Naruto. This made all the Straw Hat Pirates pause in shock. Will, Naruto said as he looked at her with a firm tone. I'm on it, babe, Will said as she grew her wings and took off into the air before heading into the city. Mikita watched her fly off and frowned. So she's your girl? She asked Naruto as she noticed Will called Naruto babe. Yay, but she's a pervert and is into women too. So don't let her access any of your holes, Usopp said as he snickered. This caused Kurama and Zoro to start howling with laughter. Oh, that's fine, as I'm bisexual, Mikita said with a grin. Oh joy, another pervert, Nami said with a groan. Okay, let's get into the city and make sure that Vivi Swan is okay, Sanji said. I hope Vivi gives us food. I'm hungry after beating up Crocodile, Luffy said as he held his growling stomach. How did you beat him? Chopper asked curiously as they all headed into the city with Naruto's clones bringing the tied-up Baroque Works agent. Oh yay, you guys weren't there. Naruto spat out a whole ocean of water at Crocodile while me and Kurama beat him up before Naruto ripped out his soul. Luffy yelled as he smiled. Be what, Usopp, Chopper and Nami yelled in surprise at this. Note to self. Don't piss off the blonde, Mr. Five said as he slightly stepped away from Naruto. They are kidding, right? Mikita asked Naruto as while she had seen a lot of odd things while working for Baroque Works, this was far-fetched even for her. Naruto sighed at this, but before he could respond, they heard a crash nearby and saw two figures drop down at their feet. That's what happens when you threaten me, you punk asses. Will yelled as she hovered in the air above them. The two stood up and revealed a man and a woman. The woman was wearing a strange frog-like outfit while holding a gun in her hand. This was Miss Father's Day. The man wore a purple jacket with the number 7 on it in various places. Everyone was even surprised to see that his eyebrows looked like the number 7 too. This was Mr. 7. Oh geez, the ex-boss sent you two morons to guard the bomb? Mikita asked as she rolled her eyes at this. He's your boss too. Mr. 7 yelled out. Yay. When we tell him you're with the enemy he will kill you, you bleached blonde tramp. Miss Father's Day yelled in agreement. Your boss is feeding the buzzards. So I would clear out before we send you to join him, Kurama said with a growl as he held out a claw and charged some electro. Did you deal with the bomb? Naruto asked Will as she floated down to them. Yay, I disarmed it, so don't worry. Now, as for you two, Will said as she approached Mr. 7 and Miss Father's Day while cracking her knuckles. Run away. The two lackeys yelled before they ran off. Naruto shook his head at this before he spotted Vivi running over with an older man. He had a wrinkled face, a tied-off beard, and long curly black hair. He was wearing a green robe with yellow edging, an orange and beige sash around his waist, and a purple coat. He also wore black shoes and a necklace. This was Cobra, Vivi's father. You guys are okay. Vivi yelled out happily as she ran over and hugged Naruto. Please, that guy was easy once Naruto drenched him in water, Kurama said as he chuckled. Did Gamabunta stop the fighting? Will asked Vivi. Yay. All he had to do was yell, and I quote. If you morons wanna fight, then fight me. Vivi said as she and Naruto separated. Yay, that would do it, Usopp said with a chuckle as a toad the size of a mountain would scare almost anyone into backing down. I must thank you all. You have saved both my daughter and my kingdom, Cobra said as he bowed his head to them. Naruto was a bit surprised at this. Wow, a king bowing his head. Never seen that before, he thought. It was no problem, Mr. Vivi's dad, Chopper said as he smiled. If you want to thank us, then feed us. I'm starving. Luffy yelled with his tongue hanging from his mouth before Sanji kicked him in the head. Stop thinking with your stomach, you moron. Sanji yelled out. Cobra's sweat dropped at this before he smiled and nodded his head. I'll have the cooks prepare a massive feast for you all, he said as he felt that was the least he could do. Luffy and Kurama cheered at this as they were both ready to eat. Mikita grabbed Naruto's arm again as they followed Vivi and Cobra towards the palace. On the way, they ran into Harem, who told them how he'd survived. Vivi was ecstatic to see him alive as she hugged him with tears running down her cheeks. What should I do with these guys, your highness? Naruto asked Cobra curiously, pointing his thumb over his shoulder at the tied-up agents. Don't worry, my guards will deal with them. Just drop them off with the guards at the gate, Cobra said as he gestured to said guards as they passed them. Now that sounds like a better job than bounty hunter, Mr. 5 said with a sigh. Well, if you're looking to get a real job, I'm always looking to give people a chance. But you only get one, Cobra said firmly. Mr. 5 gave a nod at this, showing that he understood as he and the others were taken away by the guards, with Harem following. Later in the palace. Everyone was sitting at a table in the royal dining hall, which had many different dishes for the pirates who saved Alabasta. Luffy and Kurama were already eating with gusto, sending crumbs everywhere. You think they're having an eating contest or something? Naruto whispered to Will, who simply shrugged in response. Show some manners, you idiots. Nami yelled at them, disgusted with their lack of manners. Pirate Tangerine Head. Kurama yelled out before he was nailed in the head with an empty plate thrown by Nami. This got laughs from everyone, even Vivi, while Cobra shook his head and chuckled. "So, what's your plan now that crocodile is dealt with?" Vivi asked the crew curiously. "No real plan. We will just leave and continue on our adventures," Zoro said with a shrug as he drank some ale. Vivi frowned at this, as she knew they were gonna leave since they were pirates, but she was still gonna miss them. Cobra raised an eyebrow at this, but chuckled as he had a feeling what would happen. "You shouldn't worry about us, Vivi. I mean, you're coming with us after all, right?" Luffy asked curiously as he stopped eating for a moment while Kurama stole some food from his plate. Vivi paused at this, as she hadn't considered this. "Vivi, if you wish to go with them, I won't stop you," Cobra said as he looked at his daughter. Everyone looked at Cobra in surprise at this. "Your Majesty." Igaram yelled out in shock. Wouldn't that make things difficult with the world government?" Nami asked curiously. "Yay, a princess bailing to become a pirate isn't a good look," Will said, as she didn't want Alabasta to get in trouble because of them. "Neither is one of their warlords trying to destroy this country," Naruto said with a scowl. "Exactly what I will tell them when they ask why Vivi left," Cobra said as he nodded in agreement. "Well, if you guys will have me," Vivi said with a smile at her friends. "Of course we will." Everyone yelled out happily. "Though you may need to get stronger, princess, so welcome to my bootcamp," Will said with a mad grin. Vivi chuckled nervously at this as she sweat-dropped slightly. "I have something that may help with that," Naruto said as he pulled up his sleeve and unsealed the sand fruit from his seal tattoo. "The devil fruit?" Mikita asked curiously as she recognized the swirls on the fruit. "Which one is it?" Sanji asked curiously. "Oh," Naruto found that when he ripped out Crocodile's soul, Kurama said simply before he belched loudly. "That's Crocodile's fruit?" Vivi asked with a surprised look on her face. "Well, not anymore," Naruto said firmly as he placed it in front of Vivi. "Ah, you would be a real desert princess with that," Will said as she smiled. "It's a loja fruit, which would be really useful on the crew," Usopp said as he swallowed his food. "Plus, we'd have every type of fruit on the crew too," Sanji said with a nod. Vivi nodded at this as she took the fruit, and after looking at it for a moment she took a bite of it before she paused as her face turned green as she swallowed. "Ugh, it tastes disgusting," she said with a grimace. "Yay. Thankfully all it takes is one bite," Usopp said as he shuddered. "Hey, are you guys looking to recruit more crew members?" Mikita asked curiously as she figured if they were taking Vivi, now was the best chance she had to join them. "Captain's decision," Naruto said simply as he pointed at Luffy, who was still eating. Yay, sure, you had a cool power. But no crushing Usopp again," Luffy said as he went back to eating. Mikita smiled at this, glad it was that easy to get a new job. Later. Naruto and the other men were in the hot springs relaxing after they had eaten their fill of food. Naruto then noticed Sanji, Usopp and Luffy climbing up the wall, which separated the men's side from the women's side. "What are you morons doing?" Zoro asked as he looked at them with a raised eyebrow. "Shut up, mosshead. I'm going to see what heaven looks like," Sanji yelled down before he had a love-struck look on his face. As the three of them reached the top of the wall, Naruto appeared standing on top of the wall. "You do realize Will is there too, right?" Naruto asked with a glare before he kicked each of them down, making them splash into the water below. "Thanks, babe." Will yelled from the other side up at Naruto. Naruto then smiled and turned to look at Will without thinking. And saw not only Will, but Nami, Vivi and Mikita, who were wearing towels, thankfully. "Naruto, since you're up there, how about you come down and celebrate with me and Vivi for stopping this war?" Will asked with a grin. "Oh, ho, ho. You thinking of throwing a party, huh? I'm down." Mikita yelled as she giggled. Naruto blushed at this, but composed himself before he shook his head. "Sorry ladies, but I don't perform when there is a risk of morons hearing us," he said as he gestured to his side. Nami chuckled and nodded at this. "Fair enough, but here's a consolation prize," she said as she smirked and dropped her towel, showing him her breasts. "Nami?" Vivi yelled out in shock, with a blush on her face. "Whoa, not bad," Will said with a smirk at this. Mikita then stood up and smiled at Naruto. "And here's a second prize, cutie," she said before dropping her own towel, showing off her breasts too. Naruto said nothing at this but fell back over the wall as he blushed. Will laughed at this, while Nami and Mikita smiled and gave her a thumbs up as Vivi shook her head. The next day. The crew were all approaching the Going Merry with some supplies that the king had offered them. And thanks to the supersonic duck-build squad, they'd made good time getting there. The members of the squad saluted them and left, with everyone waving goodbye. Vivi was a bit upset as she didn't get to say goodbye to Karu, who'd mysteriously disappeared last night. As they approached, they noticed the kung fu dugongs barking at a knocked-out bone clay that they had surrounded. Eee. They are adorable. Mikita yelled as she smiled at the dugongs who were sniffing at her curiously. "Oh great, what are you doing here, moron?" Will asked as she scowled at Bone Clay before she smacked him on the face, waking him up. "I was trying to move your shop so the Marines wouldn't take it. But your pets jumped me and beat me up," Bone Clay yelled out. The dugongs angrily barked at Bone Clay for this, not amused at being called pets. "We already know the Marines are after us. But thanks anyway," Naruto said as he nodded at Bone Clay as they approached the Going Merry. "Yay, we need to get out of here and quickly. So everyone get moving," Nami yelled as she, Will, Mikita and Vivi got on the ship. "Quack!" Kara yelled, greeting them all on the deck of the ship, surprising them all. "Haru!" Vivi yelled in surprise, which caused her feet to turn into sand and for her to fall on her butt. Quack! Kara yelled in surprise at this, causing him to fall on his own butt. "Well, it looks like the first step of training is getting you used to your new devil fruit power," Naruto said with a grin as he helped Vivi up. Can I get a ride to my ship?" Bone Clay yelled up at them from the ground off the ship since the dugongs wouldn't let him on the ship. "Oh sure. Let him up guys." Luffy yelled at the dugongs. A few crashing sounds and Bone Clay yelping later before he was thrown up onto the ship, battered, bruised and beat up again. "Wow, they take defending the ship seriously, don't they?" Chopper asked as he approached Bone Clay. "Indeed they do," Dr. Robin said as she walked onto the deck. "Intruder. Sick her, my minions." Usopp yelled at the dugongs while hiding behind the mast. The dugongs gained hearts in their eyes and barked at Robin happily. Robin smiled at this and nodded down at the dugongs who all cheered at this. "Wait, can you understand them?" Will asked with a raised eyebrow. "Well, I can't understand their words. But they are easy to understand if you listen," Robin said with a smile as they all got the shop moving. "This all Sunday. What are you doing here?" Bone Clay asked in shock. "Yay, Baroque works is over. So you better not be here for revenge." Vivi yelled at her. Now, your captain already invited me to the crew," Robin said with a grin. This caused Will, Sanji and the dugongs to gain hearts in their eyes and cheer, while everyone else looked at Luffy with shocked and angry looks, while Kurama looked bored. Nami smacked Luffy on the head at this. "What the hell were you thinking?" she yelled. "Boy." Naruto suggested it. Luffy yelled as he held his head in pain. "Of course he did," Vivi said with a sigh as she had a feeling he offered Robin a place to go since he was the one to kill Crocodile. "Look, we can discuss Naruto being a perverted idiot later. Let's get this ship moving." Kurama yelled at the crew. Suddenly an arm appeared on Kurama's shoulder and smacked him in the back of the head. "Boy. Cut the crap." Kurama yelled as the ship moved. They soon were out to sea and saw Bone Clay's ship approaching them. "Finally. This is where I leave you be, my friends." Bone Clay yelled as he jumped onto the ship as it passed the Going Merry. "See you later, Bone." Luffy, Usopp and Chopper yelled as they waved at Bone Clay as he and his ship left. Guys," Will said as she pointed behind the ship. They all looked and saw an entire fleet of marine ships chasing after them. "Oh crap. Get this ship moving." Mikita yelled out in a panic. "Hawks. Give me back my weapon." The crew heard Smoker's voice yelling out. Kurama smirked at this. "Sorry Smokey, but I don't think I will," he shouted back with a snicker. "Wait. Why are the Marines attacking Bone Clay?" Will asked as she drew their attention to the fact most of the ships were going after Bone Clay's ship. Naruto took a spyglass from Usopp and looked through it to see what was going on. "What's going on?" Sanji asked curiously. Naruto scowled at this and frowned as he put down the spyglass. That fool made himself look like Luffy and lured them to him. He yelled as he definitely didn't like the idea of someone sacrificing themselves for them. Everyone's eyes widened at this before they looked at the ship that was getting smaller and smaller as they went out to sea. "Bone. You didn't need to do that." Luffy yelled as he, Usopp and Chopper cried for their friend. "Perhaps this was Mr. Two's way of atoning," Robin said as she nodded in respect. Will frowned before she took a deep breath then ran over to the edge of the ship. "Me and you are even now, you brave moron." She bellowed out loudly, hoping that Bone Clay could hear her. "We still have Smoker after us, so let's move." Nami yelled at Sanji and Zoro. Naruto then smirked as he had an idea. He quickly went to the back of the ship and stood on the railing. "You all will always remember this as the day that you almost captured the Straw Hat Pirates," he yelled out with a wide grin. The crew looked at Naruto with various reactions as he hopped off the railing. "What?" Naruto asked innocently. Everyone then moved, steering the ship, guiding it out to sea and leaving Alabasta and onto their next adventure. On board the Going Merry, a few days later. It had been a few days since the Straw Hat Pirates had left the kingdom of Alabasta along with their princess. Said princess was now awake and sitting in the crow's nest as she looked ahead at the open sea like she liked to do in the morning with her arms spread out wide. Vivi smiled as she felt the sea breeze and leaned back against the mast of the ship and looked up at the sky. When suddenly, Naruto appeared and looked down at her as he stood on top of the mast of the ship. "Ah! Don't do that!" Vivi yelled out in a panic as she jumped in surprise at Naruto's sudden appearance. Naruto smiled at this as he jumped down from the mast and stood next to Vivi in the crow's nest. "So, this is where you hide from Will in the morning," he said with a chuckle as he looked at Vivi while leaning against the mast himself. "Isn't she busy torturing Usopp and Nami at the moment? Why does she need to drag me into what she calls training?" Vivi asked, as while she had been training with Will the past few days, she hadn't been making much progress with learning how to use her devil fruit power. "Yay. That's why I'm taking over your training from now on," Naruto said as he attempted to put her at ease. "Do you think you can teach me?" Vivi asked curiously as she didn't know if Naruto knew enough about her new powers. "Well, I know some tricks a friend of mine used with his own sand abilities. And I bet you could use them and maybe even improve on them," Naruto said as he smiled at Vivi encouragingly. "Are you thinking of teaching her to fight like my moronic brother?" Kurama asked, announcing his presence to them, sitting on the crow's nest. "Is this a theme with you all?" Vivi asked as she jumped in surprise again. "Well, she does have the ability to become and manipulate sand. So I was thinking of making her a gourd and getting her started," Naruto said as he looked at Kurama. It could work. But is she actually gonna try? I mean, she's making the tangerine head and long nose look good," Kurama said as he gestured down below where Will was making Nami and Usopp do sit-ups before they ate breakfast. "I have complete faith in her, Kurama. So you can rest assured that your bro's techniques will be passed down to a worthy fighter," Naruto said as he placed his hand on Vivi's shoulder. "Oh, I don't care about that. Teach her what you want. If she learns and becomes strong, cool. If she doesn't, she makes my brother look stupid and I get a big laugh," Kurama said with a cackle. Naruto chuckled at this as he should have known this would be his response. "You have a brother?" Vivi asked Kurama curiously as she didn't know a lot about the mink. "Yay, I had several and a few sisters too," Kurama said as he shrugged. "That's nice that you have siblings," Vivi said with a smile. "True, but Shukaku is the annoying one," Kurama said. "Worse than you?" Vivi asked curiously. "Ha!" Naruto laughed at this as it was a good burn at Kurama. Kurama paused at this before he laughed too. "Good one, girly. But trust me, my brother is pretty much me, without a filter," he said. "Hey, he helped us with your grandma, so he has some loyalty," Naruto said with a chuckle. True, Kurama said with a chuckle of his own as he couldn't deny that. "Okay you all, breakfast." Sanji yelled out to the whole ship. "Good." Luffy was heard yelling loudly. "Wait for me, you rubber-brained idiot." Kurama yelled as he jumped down as he didn't want to lose out on a meal. "We better move. Kurama and Will can only keep Luffy from our food for so long," Naruto said as he approached Vivi. "Okay, let's eat," Vivi was saying before she yelled out in surprise as Naruto scooped her up into his arms into a bridal carry before he jumped down after Kurama. When he landed, he looked at Vivi and chuckled at the surprised look that was on her face. "Don't do that," Vivi stuttered out as she blushed and Naruto put her down. "As Her Majesty wishes," Naruto said with a bow while smiling. "Oh, stop. I'm not a princess while here," Vivi said as she walked towards the dining area with Naruto close behind. They both went inside and saw everyone sitting around the table eating the breakfast Sanji had made for them. "You are both disgusting," Nami said with a scowl at Kurama and Luffy who were both eating their food like animals. "There you are, Vivi. You were playing hooky from my training again," Will said as she looked up from her plate to look at Vivi. But she grabbed her fork and stabbed Luffy's hand with it as he tried to sneak food off her plate, making him yell out in pain. "Me and Vivi talked and I'm gonna work with her to get used to her powers from now on," Naruto explained as he and Vivi sat down to their plates. "Ah, you looking to get private time with Naruto, huh?" Naughty Princess Mikita said with a giggle. "You're more than welcome to join in training with us as I might have a few ideas for your devil fruit," Naruto said as he and Vivi helped themselves to some food. Not a lot you can do with getting heavy and light," Mikita said with a shrug. "What about doing it one limb at a time?" Zoro asked curiously with a shrug as he drank some beer. "Huh?" Mikita asked cluelessly. "Yay. Like, if you go to punch someone, you can make just your fist heavy at the last moment and really hurt someone," Will said as she swallowed her food. "And maybe make yourself light enough where you can move faster than normal," Usopp said with a nod. "Okay, you can train with me and Vivi while Will trains Nami and Usopp," Naruto said as he nodded at Mikita who smiled and nodded back. "Why do we have to train with the psycho?" Usopp asked as he jerked a thumb at Will who was throwing a knife at Luffy for trying to steal her food again. "When you call me that, I want to practice my stabbing, long nose," Will said with a smile as she stabbed the air for emphasis. Usopp paled at this and fell over, out of his seat, paralyzed from fear. Topper gave a slight yell of fright at this as he knelt down next to him and made sure that he was alright. To answer your question, it's because Will gets results and you two need basic training. Which is what Will specializes in, Naruto said after he swallowed his food. Okay, that makes sense, Usopp said with a nod as he stood back up with Chopper sighing in relief. So you two handle training those who need it? Robin asked curiously. That's right, Naruto said with a nod. Yay. I'm good at basic training and Naruto helps with technique ideas, Will explained to Robin. Robin hummed in thought at this. Do you have any ideas what I can do with my devil fruit? She asked curiously. Will paused at this before she started to giggle. Pervert Luffy said as he grabbed some of Will's food before he took off running. Get back here so I can turn you into my personal punching bag. Will yelled out as she ran after him. Such an energetic crew, Robin said with a chuckle as they all watched Will chase Luffy. Yay, welcome to the madhouse. You're one of us now, Naruto said as he smiled at Robin. One of us, Usopp and Chopper chanted together. Gobble gobble, one of us. Kurama chanted as he joined in, getting laughs from the crew. Later in the day. Vivi was sitting down and looking at her hand as she tried to make a sand sculpture. Meanwhile, Naruto was sitting at a table with Robin, watching Vivi. Remember, keep to simple stuff and try to switch between them as fast as you can, Naruto said as he tried to guide Vivi in getting used to her powers. Vivi nodded at this as she started to switch between a block and a circle, trying to do it instantly. Naruto leaned back and looked around at everyone as they worked around the ship, noticing that Nami had got Luffy to use the Kung Fu Dugongs to help before he looked at Robin, who was reading a book. What are you reading? He asked curiously. I'm reading about some old civilizations, Robin said simply as she turned a page. That's interesting. Are you a scholar or something? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Robin raised her own eyebrow at this as she looked at Naruto. Why so interested? She asked him curiously. Well, you're part of the crew and I figured we could try to get to know each other. And no, not like that, Will. Naruto was saying with a kind smile before he yelled the last part as he looked up at Will, who was watching them from the guardrail of the ship with a smirk. Oh phooey, Will said with a pout as she puffed out her cheeks. Robin chuckled a little at this as she looked at Naruto. Oh? Are you not interested in older women? She asked. Naruto paused at this and quickly waved his hands in a panic. No. No, that doesn't bother me at all. He yelled out. Shame, as I was going to teach the younger ladies how to please you, Robin said, smiling at Naruto. Naruto went atomic red at this, while Will burst out laughing at this. Okay, I definitely like you, Robin. You have a mischievous mind, Will said with a smile as she floated down next to them. Naruto watched as Robin smiled at Will as she laughed at her little prank on him and pouted a little bit. Now, it was just a joke. I actually do like your idea to get to know each other a bit. So how about this? I ask you and Will here a question and then you can ask me one. And we can choose whether or not to answer, Robin said with a smile at Naruto and Will. I can do that. I apologize in advance for whatever Will asks you, Naruto said as he nodded in agreement. Ha ha ha, Will said as she rolled her eyes at him and looked up a little. Will paused and her eyes widened as she spotted something in the sky falling towards them. What's up? Naruto asked her as he too looked up. The falling ship, that's what's up. Will yelled out, making Luffy, Usopp, Chopper, Vivi, Mikita and Nami scream in a panic. Wake up, you two idiots. Naruto yelled out as he ran over to Zoro and Kurama and smacked their heads together, waking them up. What the beep? Zoro and Kurama yelled out in a rage, glaring at Naruto. We have a situation. Now get this ship moving. Nami bellowed out at them both. Everyone quickly moved to try and help maneuver the ship around to avoid the falling ship. Kung Fu Dugongs, please do your best to make sure the ship doesn't get hit by any of the falling debris. Naruto yelled out. The Kung Fu Dugongs saluted at this before they jumped in the air and knocked any debris away. We have a big piece incoming. Mikita yelled as she pointed up at what looked like a fully intact ship falling towards them. Everyone screamed in terror at this as they didn't have time to get out of the way. Naruto instinctively activated the Rinnegan as he glared at the incoming ship and held out his palm at it. Shinra Tensei. He yelled out. This caused a massive invisible force to shoot from Naruto and slam into the incoming ship, which tore through it easily, making the ship explode and causing it to rain small pieces of ship on them. Naruto panted at this as he used quite a bit of his chakra reserves to pretty much obliterate the falling ship. He then looked at his crewmates, besides Will and Kurama, who were all looking at him with surprised looks on their faces. What? Is there something on my face or in my hair? Naruto asked them. What the hell was that? Nami yelled as she looked at Naruto. That was one of my techniques. It's Naruto was saying before getting cut off. Pretty much you are using gravity to send a huge amount of force at an opponent or object. I'm assuming, Robin said, as she looked at Naruto with a calculative look. Heh, exactly, Naruto said with a chuckle at Robin, impressed that she was able to figure that much out so quickly. I don't get it, Luffy said, as he tilted his head to the side in confusion. It's ninja magic, Will said, as she figured it was best to keep it simple for him. What the heck was that? Mikita said, as she looked up in the air, hoping no more debris would fall on them. No idea. This is definitely not normal, Vivi said, as she also looked up. We have a problem. Nami yelled out, as everyone looked over at her. What's the matter, my dear Nami? Sanji asked her. It's the log pose. It's broken. Nami yelled out, showing everyone that the log pose was pointing up. Robin looked at the log pose and shook her head at this. I don't believe it's broken. I believe it's just pointing up, she said simply. That's impossible. Nami yelled at her, clearly not in the mood to hear this nonsense. Well, if we want to know what's going on, we could search the sunken ship for clues, Vivi said with a shrug. Or what's left of it, Usopp said, as he looked at Naruto with a flat look. There is still some debris on Mary. We could look at that while the dugong search the bigger pieces in the sea and bring it up to us, Will said with a smile. That's a good idea. Okay, Chopper, you tell the dugongs, while the rest of us can search the debris on Mary, Nami said, figuring it was best to at least look for answers. Chopper nodded at this before he ran over to the railing of the ship and looked over at the dugongs. As everyone got to work at cleaning up the ship before they started to set sail again, Naruto looked up at the sky once more. What are you thinking? Will asked curiously as she stood next to him. I'm thinking a whole intact ship falling out of the sky and the log pose pointing up is a big indicator of where we're gonna head next, Naruto said with a smile. Will nodded in agreement at this. Yay, as I'm sure that Luffy would be pretty insistent on it, she said with her own smile. Well, here's hoping we can find a clue. I don't want to hear him whine about not going on a new adventure, Kurama said as he picked up some debris and threw it overboard. You better make sure you don't hit the dugongs, Vivi said with a frown at him. Oh please. If they get hit, it's their own now. Kurama was saying before something from the sea below smacked him in the back of the head. What the heck is this thing? Vivi asked curiously as everyone looked at a strange contraption on the deck of the ship. Screw that. Who hit me with it? Kurama yelled out as he rubbed his head. They all heard barking from out in the sea, making them all look over the side of the ship and saw the dugongs carrying items. The lead one said, don't throw shit at us or the next one will go where the sun don't shine, Chopper said to Kurama. Screw you. I'll slice you up and have you served with a nice wine. Kurama bellowed at the dugongs, whose response was to make faces at him, mocking him. Odd, I love that these guys are on the crew, Will said with a smile as Usopp and Luffy laughed at this. This is a most curious device. I wonder what it is and how it works, Robin said with her hand on her chin as she looked over the contraption on the deck. This isn't a device you all are familiar with? Naruto asked Robin as he figured she would be the one to ask. Everyone shook their heads at this. Naruto mused as he and Nami looked at the device. Hey, did you all find anything else? Will asked the dugongs down in the sea. Yay. Or are you all as useless as we think, how? Kurama was saying with an annoyed tone before a treasure chest smacked him in the head thrown on course by the dugongs. The dugongs all barked at this, which looked like they were laughing at this, considering some of them were holding up score signs. Will burst out laughing at this while Kurama held his head in pain. They say that the chest they hit the loudmouth idiot with is full of stuff they found, Chopper said as he pointed at the chest that had hit Kurama. Okay, let's take a look inside it. And no, you can't attack the dugongs, Kurama, Naruto said as he and Nami approached the chest. Kurama grumbled at this while Chopper applied a bandage on his head. Oh, I wonder what kind of treasure is inside the chest, Nami said happily. Naruto opened the chest and saw it was full of books and papers. Nami groaned at this, clearly disappointed that there was no gold. Hey, there are some maps in, Usopp was saying as he grabbed some of the papers before he was cut off. Gimme. Nami yelled as she snatched the papers from him and looked them over. Robin then leaned over and grabbed a book before opening it. Anything interesting? Naruto asked curiously. It's a log book. Apparently, the crew on this ship were trying to find an island with a golden bell, Robin said as she read the book. The golden bell. Nami yelled out with a wide grin as she imagined how much that would be worth. Apparently, they were looking for it on a sky island, Robin said as she closed the log book. The sky island? Cool. Luffy yelled out in excitement at the idea of a sky island, so excited he started to dig through the chest. Wait, so that is real? Zoro asked curiously as he looked up at the sky. There is no real proof that it's real. For all we know, the guys writing that log were just nuts or writing a fairy tale book, Sanji said. Oh, like the all blue is a fantasy? Usopp asked with a beaked eyebrow. Gushe Sanji said before he kicked Usopp in the head. Hey, look at this. Luffy yelled out as he held up a piece of paper. On the paper was what looked like an island surrounded by what looked like clouds and the name Skypia on it. Holy crap. This looks too legit to be a fake, Kurama said, as this was made from high-quality paper and was etched by an expert. So there is a sky island, Vivi said with a surprised look on her face. Looks like it. And knowing Luffy, he wants to head there, Mikita said with a smile. Let's go look for the sky island. Luffy yelled out with a big smile, with his fists raised in the air. Well, captain's orders, Naruto said with a chuckle at the captain's excitement. How the hell are we gonna find a way up to a sky island? Kurama asked with an annoyed tone as he leaned against the railing of the ship. Well, the best I can figure out is we can head to a nearby island and ask for information, Robin said. How? The log pose is useless, Nami said as she held up her arm showing the log pose. Maybe the dugongs could spread out and look for us? Will asked curiously. Or we could ask the big ship, Chopper said as he pointed at a large ship sailing towards them. It had a large monkey figurehead holding a symbol in each hand. How the hell did we not notice that? Mikita asked in surprise. Alright you lot. You better not be stealing any of our scrapped ships. A voice yelled from up on the ship as someone approached the side, revealing themselves to be a human with ape-like features, wearing an orange jumpsuit. It's a monkey. Luffy, Usopp and Chopper yelled out in surprise. The name is Marissa, and I'm the captain of the Marissa Pirates, the named Marissa said as he placed his fists on his hips. We're not here to cause trouble. We are just looking for directions, Naruto said as he approached the edge of the Mary to talk to Marissa. Oh? You need directions, eh? Don't you have a log pose? Marissa asked curiously as he tilted his head to the side. Yay, we do. But it's pointing up, Nami said as she held up the log pose, showing it to him. Ah. So, you got locked onto a sky island, eh? Marissa said with a grin. You know about Sky Island? Chopper asked curiously. Well, me and my brother haven't been to one. But we believe they exist. That's why we go around looking for ships that fall from the sky. We're looking for clues, Marissa said as he nodded. Your brother? Will asked curiously. Xiaoju. He's diving in the sea right now, looking for ships, Marissa said with a smile. Suddenly, they all heard barking and what sounded like blows landing and someone yelling in pain. Oh geez, Naruto said with a groan as he pinched his nose as what looked like another monkey man was thrown onto the deck of the Mary with lumps on his head. Ahahahaha. So that's what it looks like when it's not me getting beat up by them. Kurama said as he laughed at this. Xiaoju. What happened? Marissa yelled out as he jumped down to the ship to check on his brother. These seals all jumped me and beat me up. It was horrible. They were so cute but vicious. Xiaoju said with a groan. Yay, sorry about them. They take defending the ship seriously, Naruto said as Chopper put a bandage on Xiaoju's head. The eyes, they are friendly. So no attacking them. Unless they attack first. Will yelled down to the dugongs who all barked and saluted Will. Wow. A small army that is in the sea. Who are you guys? Marissa asked as he looked at them curiously. We're the Straw Hat Pirates, Luffy said simply. Wait. The same Straw Hats that lured a princess to piracy, Marissa and Xiaoju yelled out in surprise. This got surprised looks from everyone. Where did you hear that baloney? Will asked curiously. It says so right here. Says the king of Alabasta joined the revolutionary army and their princess joined a pirate crew, Marissa said as he held out a newspaper which Vivi took to read. Well, it looks like the world government is making it seem like we forced you into this life, Naruto said to Vivi. This is ridiculous. They are making my kingdom seem ungrateful and like it's a country of thieves. Vivi yelled angrily as she shook the paper from her anger. This caused 5 slips of paper to fall from the newspaper and fall to the ground. Hey, what are those? Naruto asked as he bent down to pick them up. Huh, they must be new wanted posters, Marissa said as they all looked at the wanted posters. World Government Headquarters. Inside the World Government Headquarters, what looked like a room filled with Marine generals were in a meeting where there was a line of posters of Luffy, Zoro, Naruto, Will and Kurama on the wall. We need to get the word out on these pirates after what they did in Alabasta. A female Marine general said furiously. Indeed. Their captain and his new crewmates were able to easily defeat Crocodile and his criminal organization, a male Marine general said with a nod. The blonde, known as Uzumaki Naruto, has been confirmed to be able to summon giant toads and was able to blow up an entire building and steal all the money from a casino, another Marine general said with a scowl. Is he a ninja from the land of Wano? A Marine general asked curiously. Unknown for now, one Marine general said with a shake of their head. The female, known as Wilma, has some kind of electricity power and can fly with fairy wings. She was also able to bring the Marines' rifles to life, a Marine general said. And the fox mink, known as Kurama, easily beat Captain Smoker and was seen as very vicious with the enemy, one Marine general said. These three must be given huge bounties, along with giving a bounty to Urano's Oro and increasing their captain's bounty. A Marine general said, slamming a fist on the table, with everyone yelling and nodding in agreement. Back with the Straw Hats. The crew were now being led to an island called Jaya by Marissa's ship while they all looked at the new bounty posters. Monkey D. Luffy. 100 million berries. Hey, my bounty went up. Luffy declared happily, with his fists raised in the air. Urano's Oro. 60 million berries. Heh, not bad for my first bounty, Zoro said with a smirk as his poster showed him standing before what looked like a broken building. Ninja Sage Naruto. 75 million berries. Well, that's quite a good first bounty for me, Naruto said as his poster showed him with his Rinnegan active while glaring at the camera. Electric Fairy Wilma. 55 million berries. Who told them my first name? Will bellowed out angrily, with her hair waving about as electricity ran through it while her poster showed her engulfed in lightning with a grin. You still look cool, sis, Chopper said as he tried to calm her down but was staying away since Will's body was sparking from her anger. Demon Fox Kurama. 66 million berries. Oh, I'm loving the name they gave me, Kurama said with a fanged grin as his poster showed him mid-cackle well covered in blood. Why did Mosshead get a bounty? Sanji grumbled as he glared at the poster. I obviously did something that made them remember me. Unlike you swirly-browed perv, Zoro said with a wide grin. What did you call me? Sanji yelled as he glared at Zoro. You heard me. Zoro yelled back as their heads butted against each other. Will you morons focus? We're coming up on Jaya, Nami yelled out, clearly annoyed and upset. What's up? Naruto asked the ship's navigator, wondering what was bothering her. Let's see, altogether our crew is worth 356 million berries, Usopp said as he was getting worried about this too. Well, only 5 of us at least, Mikita said with a sigh of relief. And that means they are gonna send even more powerful Marines after us, Robin said simply. Oh, and don't forget the bounty hunters, Vivi said as she nodded. Thank you all for being so understanding and comforting me. Nami yelled at the crew, a very annoyed look on her face. Naruto placed his hand on her head and patted her in a comforting way. Now. Listen, if you're that worried, you can stay with me, and he was saying, before getting cut off. Naruto is my bodyguard from now on. Nami yelled with a smile as she grabbed Naruto's arm. You tricked me, Naruto said as his eyes widened at the fact that Nami just played him. Nami giggled at this as she placed her head on his shoulder. Will and Mikita burst out laughing at this while Nami gave them a thumbs up. So what's the plan for when we're on this island? Sanji asked curiously as the ship approached the docks with Maria's ship sailing away. We go around and ask if anyone knows about Sky Islands and how to get there, Naruto said as he looked at everyone. And no picking fights. We can't afford getting any attention, Nami said as she glared at Luffy, Zoro and Kurama. Yay. Go be a floozy for the man whore, Kurama said as he rolled his eyes at this. You dare insult Nami Swan, Sanji yelled as he attacked Kurama, who blocked his kick with one of his tails before swinging his jit at him, which Sanji jumped back to dodge. When you're done trying to hurt Kurama, I'm giving you some money so you can get supplies, Naruto said to Sanji. Good. Can I have enough to buy a fridge with a lock? Sanji asked curiously as he looked away from Kurama. Good idea. Here, get one with a sea stone lock, Naruto said as he gave Sanji some money that he stole from Crocodile's casino. I'm gonna go and see if they have something for me to carry my new weapon around with, Kurama said as he placed the jit on his shoulder. Okay, here. Anyone else want some money? Naruto asked as he handed Kurama some money. I want to buy some supplies for my rail guns. I have ideas for new ammo, Usopp said with a smile. I want medical books and supplies. Chopper said with a bright smile. I would also like to get books if they have a bookstore, Robin said with a smile. And I want to go shopping. All us girls need new clothes. Nami said with a bright smile. Are you planning to pose for Naruto? Will asked with a chuckle. Depends. Does he like that? Nami asked with a smirk. Will laughed at this as she and Nami fist bumped. Sanji had a cloud of depression over his head as he muttered under his breath about lucky blonde ninja bastards. I want meat. Luffy bellowed out with a big smile. Okay, everyone gets a good amount of money. Get what you want. But please don't be a moron with it, Naruto said with a sigh as he handed out enough money to them. Who's on moron patrol? Mikita asked as she pointed at Luffy, Zoro and Kurama. Boy. Luffy, Zoro and Kurama yelled at this, clearly offended. Well, since Nami is gonna be busy with Naruto, I'll take over watching them, Will said as she sighed. Bang. I was hoping you and the princess could go shopping for clothes, Mikita said with a frown as she was starting to like Will, Vivi and Nami. Will smiled at this. Oh. I know, she said as she smiled, and in a flash of lighting, a clone of Will appeared next to her. Oh, you're breaking out the clones, huh? Naruto asked with a smile. Well, I need to bond with my girls after all. Let's go bitches. Will's clone yelled as she pulled Mikita and Vivi to the edge of the ship and carried them onto the docks. And who made you the mistress of us? Mikita asked with a raised eyebrow. Trust me, she's the one in charge, Vivi said lowly as she thought about what Nami and her saw that night back in Alabasta. Ooh oh. Details, now. Mikita said with a mischievous smile. Are they gonna be okay? Usopp asked Will as Will's clone walked off with Vivi and Mikita into the small town. They'll be fine. My clone has all my abilities, Will said, waving her hand dismissively. Yay, but at 20% max, Kurama said with a scoff. Nobody here will need more than that, even if it's a pirate town. And if they do, my clone can at least give them a chance to flee and find us, Will said with a shrug. Okay, we're all heading into town. Dugongs, if anyone but us approaches the ship, beat them up, Naruto said before he was pulled off the ship by Nami. Let's go, mister. I haven't gone shopping in a while. Nami said with a smile. As you wish, dear, Naruto said with a grin. Nami smiled at this as she placed her head on his shoulder as they walked. Oh, he's gonna destroy her if she teases him too much, Will said with a chuckle. Oh? So you are okay with him having multiple lovers? Robin asked curiously. Oh sure. He's got the stamina of a god. I can barely keep up when he's in full ravish mode, Will said with a slight shudder and a smile. Robin raised an eyebrow at this and turned to look at Naruto before she chuckled a little. Tiled nearby, Usopp said as he covered Chopper's ears. Right. Okay, moron team, let's go. And remember, if you start a fight, I'll put you through that beeping wall. Will yelled at Luffy, Zoro and Kurama. We're outside, you pervert, Zoro said flatly as they left the ship. Yay, there are no walls. Luffy yelled with a nod. Then I will build one and beeping put you through it. Will yelled at them. Usopp shook his head as he and Chopper left the ship and decided to stick together since this was a new island for them. Mariagua. The holy land of Mariagua, the capital of the world and where those who rule it live. In a large room, a group of 5 people were having a discussion. One was a thick-set man with a full white mustache and beard along with white hair and dreadlocks that has a flat black hat over it. He had a scar on his right cheek and wore a black suit. The second man was tall and had a thin beard and long white hair without any eyebrows. He too was wearing a suit that was dark blue. Another man was bald with large nevus flammeus on his large forehead and a large white mustache. He was wearing a suit that was dark green. The fourth man was bald with glasses and a white haori tied with a light brown sash and had no facial hair. He was holding a samurai sword with him as he patted it with some cotton on a stick. The final man was the youngest of the 5. He had blonde hair, a beard of the same color, along with a scar on his chest. He also wears a dark red suit that had the shirt buttons open and no tie. What are we going to do? Now that crocodile is dead, we need someone to fill his spot, the first elder said with a frown. What about one of those that killed him? Straw Hat Luffy, Naruto Uzumaki, or the mink Kurama? The third said as he leaned forward. From what reports have said, this Naruto is the most stable and powerful of the 3, the second elder said. Then why does he follow Straw Hat? The fifth elder asked with a frown. Probably to draw attention away from himself. You know how some pirates are, the fourth elder said with a shrug. Well, we will send him a letter. At the very least, I'm sure we can offer him whatever he wants to join us, the first elder said. The elders all nodded in agreement at this, ending the meeting. Jaya. Naruto was in a clothing store, sitting down waiting for Nami as she tried on some clothes behind a changing curtain nearby. Do you need any help, sir? A male worker asked, seeing Naruto sat down. No, I'm fine. Just waiting on my girl. She's trying on some clothes, Naruto said with a nod at the worker. The male nodded at this before he went back to work helping other customers. The changing curtain opened and Nami stepped out, causing Naruto's eyes to widen in surprise. Nami had the end of her hair tied in short pigtails and was wearing a red, yellow and green shirt that barely contained her DD cup breasts and jean booty shorts that showed off her curvy figure. Nami smirked at the look Naruto was giving her. So, how do I look? Do I look good enough to be your girl? She asked with a teasing tone as she turned around and bent over, showing off her plump ass to Naruto. Naruto took a breath at this before he got up. Get in the changing room. Now, he said firmly. Nami's eyes widened at this before she smirked and walked into the changing room, a sway in her hips for Naruto's viewing pleasure. Naruto growled at this as he followed Nami inside, slapping a seal on the side of the changing room as he went inside, before closing the curtain behind him, then faced Nami who was smiling at him. With Will, Luffy and Zoro. Will was walking down the road, trying to keep an eye on Luffy and Zoro. With little success. I swear, if I have to get a leash for you, Will said, as she dragged Zoro from going in the wrong direction, for the 10th time in an hour. I wasn't getting lost, damn it. The buildings keep on moving. Zoro yelled out. Yay, and I'm a nun. And Luffy, you don't take apples from strangers. What are you, 5? Will bellowed at Luffy, who was talking to what looked like a sickly man on an equally sickly horse. Huh? Why? Luffy asked, as he took a bite of the apple, as he looked at Will. Before she grabbed him by his mouth. Out. Out. Spit it out, you idiot. Will said, as she tried to pry Luffy's mouth open. Relax, miss, he picked a good one. He's very lucky, the sickly man said with a smile, before he coughed. What do you mean by lucky? Will asked, before they heard an explosion go off nearby. Oh my god. That man just blew up. A woman yelled out in a panic. What could have caused that? A man asked curiously, as a crowd gathered around the smoking body. No idea, the guy was healthy and just eating an apple, another man said with a shrug. Will's eyes widened at this, before she turned to look at the sickly man, but he was gone. Damn it. What kind of sick bastard does this? Will thought, as she scowled. Hey Zoro, look, there's a restaurant. Luffy yelled, as he ran towards a building nearby. I hope they have good booze, Zoro said with a smile, as he followed Luffy. Boy, wait for me. I'm the one with the money, Will said with an annoyed tone, as she followed them. When they went into the restaurant, Will looked around while Luffy and Zoro made a beeline for the bar, right next to a big guy with black bushy hair and facial hair. Definitely a pirate town, Will thought, as she looked around a bit at the people who were obviously pirates. Will then walked over to the bar and took out some money that Naruto gave her. Feed my crewmates whatever they want, she said, as she handed the bartender some bills. Zahahahaha. That's a lot of money for a little miss like you to have, the man with black hair said, as he laughed. Please, that's nothing compared to what Naruto stole from that casino, Luffy said with a smile, as the bartender brought him and Zoro food and some drinks. Oh? Are you lot pirates? The black-haired man asked curiously. That we are. My captain here is worth 100 million, berries, Will said with a nod, as she took a drink. This got silence from the bar, as all eyes were on them now. 100 million berries. You lot don't look familiar, a man with shoulder-length wavy blue hair said. We were in the paper recently. Not my fault you can't keep up, Will said, as she shrugged. This got some murmurs from the other pirates. You may get in the paper, but if you don't have a name that's feared, you won't last long, girly, a man said. He had short blonde hair and wore a pink singlet with a captain's coat hanging off his shoulders. Oh? And who are you guys? Luffy asked curiously, with his mouth full of food. We're the Bellamy Pirates, and I'm the leader of this crew, Captain Bellamy, the man said with a mad grin, with his tongue sticking out of his mouth. Never heard of you, Zoro said with a shrug, as he drank some beer. You don't even read the paper, you meathead. Will yelled at Zoro. This got a laugh from Bellamy and his crew. Pretty pathetic if you can't even recognize fellow pirates, huh, Sarquis? Bellamy asked the blue-haired man near him. Sarquis nodded at this as he smirked, while his crew laughed. We get by just fine, Will said firmly, before she looked at the bartender. Hey, do you know anything about Skypia? She asked him curiously. This got silence from everyone, before the pirates in the restaurant started to laugh harder, except for the black-haired man next to Luffy who got up and left. Do you rookies actually believe that crap? Sarquis asked as he laughed. I bet they believe in the One Piece too. Bellamy said, with a laugh. Luffy and Zoro said nothing to this, as they finished their food and drink. Will rolled her eyes at this. Okay, let's get out of here and see if the others had any better luck, she said. Luffy and Zoro nodded at this, as they got up to leave, along with Will. Too bad you follow such a pathetic crew. A woman of your caliber shouldn't be following some brat, Sarquis said to Will with a confident smirk. Oh really? Will asked with an unimpressed tone. Yay, so why don't you ditch the loser and join our crew, Sarquis said with a grin. Ass, my boyfriend won't like that, Will said, as she turned around to leave. Oh, don't be that way, babe. I bet we can show you a much better time than whatever loser on this crew you're with, Sarquis said, as he smacked Will's ass before she could walk away. This got laughs from his crew, while Luffy and Zoro glared at them. Luffy, Zoro, please wait for me outside, Will said with a smile at her crewmates. Zoro chuckled at this, as he nodded. Let's go, Luffy, he said, as he grabbed Luffy by the back of his shirt. Oh, I wanted to see the fight, Luffy said with a pout, as he was dragged out. Zahahahaha. I like you, girly. The black-haired pirate said with a laugh, as he grabbed some boxes of pies, before following them. Excuse me, but what is your bounty, Sarquis? Will asked in a sweet tone that was anything but. 38 million baby Sarkwa said with a smirk. Hey, you with the flyers, do you have the new bounties? She asked the bartender with a kind tone as he hadn't pissed her off. Yes miss, the bartender said as he nodded. Care to look through those and see if you have mine? Will asked before she tossed the man some rolled up bills. Oh, and this should cover any damages that might happen. The bartender nodded at this before he looked through the flyers and paused as he found one impaled. What? She actually has one? Bellamy asked as he approached the bartender and took the poster he was holding. Bellamy looked at the poster and his eyes widened in surprise. This bitch is worth 55 million berries. He yelled in disbelief. This got silence from everyone as Will smirked and cracked her knuckles. That can't be right. Here, let me see. Sarkis yelled as he took the poster from his captain. Your name is Wilma? He asked, finding that name odd. Wait, I thought the Straw Hat called her Will. A crewmate asked with a raised eyebrow. Maybe she just takes the credit for this, Wilma, Bellamy said with a laugh before his crew laughed with him. Will said nothing to this before her body was engulfed with lightning and her wings sprouted out. This surprised the pirates, causing them to stop laughing. So, you think I'm weak, eh? Let's test that theory, shall we? Will said with a grin as she made lightning dance around her as the pirates around her pulled out their weapons. Outside the restaurant, Luffy and Zoro waited for Will while sitting next to the guy with black hair who was eating a pie. So, how bad do you see Will beating up those guys? Luffy asked Zoro curiously. Before Zoro could respond, a crash was heard and what sounded like a brawl was happening inside the restaurant. You think you can take me on, you bitch? Sarkis was heard yelling before several blows were heard and suddenly a window broke as a beaten Sarkis was thrown out of the window, crashing into a fruit cart across the street from the restaurant. Hey, she should be done soon, Luffy, Zoro said with a chuckle. Zahahahaha. That little miss is quite strong. She will make it far in the Grand Line, the black-haired man said as he laughed. You think you can beat up my crew, you beeping psycho? Bellamy was heard yelling. Your mother would be appalled at the mouth on you. I better clean your mouth out. Oi bartender, do you happen to have any soap? Will was heard shouting. Bring it on. I work for an emperor of the sea, Bellamy was heard shouting before a crash was heard. And you still scream like a bitch. Will bellowed as electricity was heard crackling as Bellamy screamed loudly. This was followed by silence before Will calmly walked outside with a calm look on her face while dusting her hands off. Okay, I'm done. Let's get back to the ship, Will said with a smile at Luffy and Zoro. Luffy and Zoro nodded at this as they followed Will. Don't let what they said get to you. Pirates like them are just no-names who won't make it past the first half of the Grand Line unless they follow somebody stronger. Dreams are what make life worth living. So don't let those losers get you down. The black-haired man yelled before he laughed as he walked off. That guy was nice, despite his taste in food stinking, Luffy said with a grin. You need better instincts, Captain Will said with a sigh, as well she didn't feel any ill intent from the man, she felt he had no real alliance with anyone. Huh? Luffy said dumbly as he beeped his head to the side as they all walked back to the docks. Back at the Going Merry. Naruto and Nami walked back onto the ship and saw that Chopper and Usopp were back and that the sniper was working on the ship along with some of the dugongs. Hey you guys, did your shopping go okay? Naruto asked his friends as he and Nami put their shopping down. I was able to restock all the medicine we'll need, Chopper said with a nod. And I was able to get some better rail guns and supplies. Now, I'm trying to patch up some damage to the ship, Usopp said, looking up from his hammering, not seeing that he just smacked a dugong's flipper. This caused a dugong to bark in pain before they all started barking at Usopp. Boy. Watch where you're swinging that thing before I take it from you and whack you with it, Chopper said, translating what the dugong said. How are you gonna do that? You don't have fingers. Usopp yelled at the dugong. This made the dugong start to bark more and then jump Usopp and started to beat him up, making a dust cloud as Usopp yelled in pain. As this was happening, Naruto frowned as he looked at the ship and how damaged it was. We need a shipwright on this crew, he said. Yay, if the ship keeps getting damaged, we might have to get a new ship, Vivi said in agreement as she looked around at the ship along with Mikita. We don't need a new ship. Usopp yelled out in a rage, jumping out of the pile of dugongs in his half-eagle form. Relax Usopp, we're not gonna just dump the ship on a whim, Naruto said as he held up his hands, hoping to calm the sniper. Where is Will's clone? Nami asked curiously. It ran out of power after some jerks tried to take Vivi so they could sell her to the world government as a bargaining chip against Alabasta, Mikita said with a scowl. Naruto and Nami frowned at this. Were they part of a pirate crew? Nami asked. No idea. Though one looked like a sniper and one was some kinder wrestler, Mikita said with a shrug. Will's clone had trouble with them? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Not really, but Will's clone told us to get back to the ship before she attacked the wrestler, Vivi said. Before Naruto could respond, he spotted Sanji and Kurama returning to the ship. Everything go okay? Naruto asked Kurama and Sanji. Yay. I bought a lot of food, thanks to you footing the bill, Sanji said, as he dragged a big bag of food. I give that a week before Rubber Brain eats it all himself, Kurama said with a snicker. Not on my watch. I have this to help, along with Naruto's seals, Sanji said with a grin, as he held up a lock that was made out of sea stone. Naruto asked with a chuckle at Sanji's excitement. Yup. Now the three morons can't steal food, Sanji said, as he jerked his head at Chopper and Usopp while he dragged the bag of food into the inside of the ship. What about you, Kurama? Vivi asked curiously. I didn't have any troubles. But I kept getting looks from the people, though I got this cool sheath, Kurama said, as he gestured to his hip where there was a well-made holster that was holding his jit. Naruto nodded at this as he saw Will, Luffy, Zoro and Robin returning to the ship. How did information gathering go? Naruto asked curiously. Not so good. Though Will beat up all these pirates in a restaurant, Luffy said with a laugh. Aw, I missed a bar brawl. Kurama asked with a frown of disappointment. Weren't you supposed to keep them out of trouble? Usopp asked Will curiously. Hey, one of those assholes smacked me on the ass. They are lucky I didn't leave bodies, Will said with a scowl. I hope you left some of them broken at least, Naruto said with an annoyed tone. She threw a guy through a window, Zoro said with a chuckle. And threatened to clean another's mouth out with soap, Luffy said with a chuckle of his own. This got some laughs from Nami, Chopper, Vivi, Usopp and Mikita, while Naruto shook his head as he chuckled. I was able to learn that a man on the other side of the island knows about Skypia. His name is Montling Cricket, Robin said with a smile. Leave it to the smartest one in the crew to get results, Naruto said with a smile at Robin, who returned the smile. Any idea where this cricket guy is? Mikita asked curiously. He lives on the island, but it's on the other side, Robin said. Okay everyone, get this ship moving, Nami yelled to the crew, who all quickly got to work. As the ship moved, Naruto noticed what looked like a bat flying towards the ship, which he noticed had a letter, as it flew over to him. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this, as he took the letter and saw it had his name on it. What's that, Naruto? Vivi asked curiously, as Naruto opened the letter and looked at it. Naruto looked at the letter and read it. To Naruto Uzumaki. You have been asked to become a warlord of the sea because of your strength and power. If you accept this deal, you'll be taking Crocodile's place. You'll be expected to pay a tribute of your plunder to the world government, only steal from pirates, and to attend any meetings called. In return, everyone on the crew will be granted full immunity from any legal action up to and including execution for past crimes, in accordance with your cooperation. The Marines are also willing to offer you any favor, within reason, for your acceptance. We look forward to your answer. Fleet Admiral Sengoku. Kurama looked over Naruto's shoulder and after a few moments of reading. Ha. Oh god, I can't breathe. Kurama said as he bent over while holding his sides. Oh, this must be good, Will said as she snatched the letter from Naruto and after a few moments of reading, she too burst out laughing. What's so funny? Zoro asked with a twitching eyebrow, wondering what the joke was. Yay. As captain, I should know what letter my crewmate got, Luffy said with an annoyed tone. You may want to tell the world government that then, captain. They are trying to recruit him as a replacement for Crocodile, Will said with a snicker as she rolled her eyes and lit the letter on fire with her lightning. The crew all yelled together in shock. Why him? Why not me, as I'm the captain? Luffy yelled out. Luffy, he ripped out Crocodile's soul and showed off a toad the size of a mountain, Nami said with a flat tone. Luffy looked to the side at this and grumbled to himself as he had no response to this. Oh relax captain, I'm not taking that offer, Naruto said as he rolled his eyes. I would hope so. I would kick your ass if you tried being a sellout. Kurama yelled out as he stopped laughing. Of course he wouldn't go work for those morons, Mikita said with a scoff. Good to know you have standards, Robin said simply as the ship made its way to the other side of Jaya. I'm glad that he isn't gonna work for them, otherwise they'd make me teach someone how to read poneglyphs, she thought to herself. Later. It was now night time and everyone was outside of a house in front of a forest. Everyone was getting the ship ready thanks to the help of Cricket and the Sarayama Alliance. Cricket had explained the story of his ancestor who had said he had found a city of gold. After he explained that, he had explained that the only way he knew to go to the Sky Island was by using the knock-up stream. And to use that, they needed to not only make some adjustments to the Going Merry, but also find what was called a South Bird so they could find their way to the knock-up stream. Which Naruto, Luffy, Chopper and Robin were now hunting for in the forest, while the others were modifying Merry. There one is. Luffy yelled as he pointed at a tree where there was a bird sitting on a branch. It had a large beak with purple and green feathers. Luffy, you don't catch a bird by yelling at it, Naruto said with a sigh. He's already gone, Robin said with a chuckle as Luffy ran over to the tree and started to climb it, making his way up to the bird. Okay Mr. Bird, I got ya. Luffy yelled as he reached for the south bird. Before the bird cried out as it pecked at Luffy's face, making him yell out and fall to the ground, slamming his head into the ground. That's how you catch a bird? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow at his captain. Well, how would you catch it? Luffy yelled as he rubbed his head while Chopper checked on him. Just watch and learn, Naruto said as he channeled some sage power, making his eyes change. Robin looked at Naruto inquisitively at this as she had not seen Naruto do this yet. Jio. The south bird yelled before it flew over to Naruto and landed on his head, making Naruto smile. It says you seem like a cool guy and will gladly help you. Just keep the moron away from him, Chopper said, pointing at Luffy. Boy. Luffy yelled at the bird at this, not amused with the insult. We should get back to the others and prepare to leave, Naruto said as he knew they were on a time limit. Alright Skypia, here we come. Luffy yelled as he led the way back, forgetting he was mad at the south bird. Naruto shook his head and chuckled at this as they all followed Luffy. As they walked, Naruto noticed Robin looking at him. Are you okay? He asked, noticing her looking at him very intently. What power is this? Is it only for attracting animals? Robin asked curiously. It's Naruto's Sage Mode, Chopper said as he looked back at Naruto and Robin. It's Sage Magic, Luffy said with a smile. Naruto shook his head at this before he looked at Robin. It's a long story, but it's a technique that lets me use energy from nature to enhance my abilities. And yes, attract animals, he said, keeping it simple. Fascinating, Robin said as she looked into Naruto's eyes, which were still in Sage Mode. Naruto blushed a little at this as he looked into Robin's eyes. Go. The south bird called out. He wants to know if the lady is your mate, Chopper said. Naruto paused at this before he looked up at the bird. She's a friend, he said to it. You sound disappointed, Robin said with a chuckle. Well, you are a beautiful woman, Naruto said with a shrug. Pervert, Luffy said simply as he picked his nose with his pinky. Boy. Find a woman of your own, then you can judge me. Naruto yelled at Luffy. Why would I want to? Luffy asked boredly. Well, if you're gonna be the Pirate King, I would imagine you would need a queen, Naruto said as they walked out of the forest and headed to the others. Luffy said as he thought about this before he smiled brightly. I have one I want as my queen. He said as they approached the ship. Oh, this should be good, Kurama said with a snicker as everyone was now ready to go. What's this about rubber boy with a queen? Will asked curiously. Naruto told our captain that if he's gonna be king, he should have a queen, Robin said with a smile. Bill snorted at this, while the other girls giggled at this. I don't see that happening, Zoro said with a chuckle. What woman would follow this moron? Sanji asked as he lit a new cigarette. Shows what you all know. I had a girl like Hinda liked when I was back on my home island, Luffy said with a pout. Oh? And what is this lady's name? Usopp asked. Oh, her name is Yuta, Luffy was saying before he got cut off. What? Nami, Usopp, Mikita and Sanji bellowed in shock. Is that someone we should know? Naruto asked Vivi, who had a surprised look on her face. If it's the Yuta we think he means, it's the world's most popular singer. She sells out concerts year-round, Robin said as she chuckled at Luffy. That's her. Luffy said with a smile as he nodded as he thought about his friend. There is no way in hell you know someone like that. Sanji yelled at Luffy in denial. How could you know someone like that? Usopp asked, not believing this for a second. She is Shanks' adopted daughter and she was with him during that year his crew was at my island, Luffy said simply. This got surprised looks from everyone. So to summarize, you want to marry the daughter of a Yonko? Naruto asked with a sweat drop on his head. Well, at least he aims high, Kurama said with a snicker. Okay, let's put a pin in this and get moving. Hoi, off my head. You're gonna help my girl here guide the ship, Naruto said to the south bird on his head. The south bird squawked at this and flew over to Nami as the ship sailed away from Jaya, ready to begin their new adventure. At sea. Everyone was moving about on the Going Merry as they sailed south thanks to the south bird. We're going to a sky island. We're going to a sky island. Luffy, Usopp and Chopper sang as they danced about together. Will you morons let me focus? Nami bellowed at them, losing her patience with them as she tried to focus on guiding the ship. How will we know where the knock-up stream will occur? Vivi asked curiously. That's a good point, Kurama said with a nod. That's why we're coming along. They heard from next to them as they saw Masira and Xiaoju sailing alongside them. One of Masira's men was looking about with his binoculars when he spotted dark clouds. "Boss, we have a problem," he yelled out, getting Marissa's attention. "What is it?" he asked as he walked over. "I see the Imperial Cumulus to the southwest," the man said. What time is it?" Marissa asked in shock. "It's 10 a.m. It's appeared much earlier than anticipated," one of his men said after looking at their watch. "Damn it, this is bad. Xiaoju, do you think you'll make it?" Masira yelled to his brother. "Divers. Into the water. Find that current," Xiaoju yelled. "You got it," his men yelled as they began moving about, with some jumping into the sea as the three ships turned towards the dark clouds. "So, how are you guys gonna help?" Luffy asked with a tilt of his head. "I'll use my voice to send out a vibration through the water so that my men can get locations of where the knock-up stream will occur," Xiaoju said. "Cool." Luffy, Chopper and Usopp said with stars in their eyes. Xiaoju then held a microphone up to his mouth and bellowed into it. After a moment, one of the divers came up. "Echo confirmed. There's a strong ocean current at 12 o'clock," he yelled out. "Large creature detected at 9 o'clock. It could be a sea king," another diver yelled after he came up. "There's a wave opposing the current flow confirmed at 10 o'clock. It could be a whirlpool," a third diver yelled once he came up. "That's it. All ships change heading to 10 o'clock. That's where the explosion will happen. Find that whirlpool and don't back out," Marissa yelled out as the three ships turned in that direction. "Are all the dugongs secure?" Naruto asked the crew as he had asked them to let the dugongs on and get them on the ship safely as they were part of the crew. "Kurama said he took care of it," Usopp said, pointing at the mink. Kurama snickered at this while Mikita, Vivi, Will and Robin looked at him suspiciously. "What did you do, you idiot?" Will asked with a hard tone. "Yay, you better not have hurt them," Vivi said with a frown as they were still part of her country. "Relax, princess, they are perfectly fine," Kurama said with a scoff. Below deck. Below the deck of the ship, all of the dugongs were locked up in steel cages and some of them were banging their bars with tin cups and food bowls, barking angrily. Back on deck. Will's eyebrow was twitching at what Kurama had just told them he had done to the dugongs, while the other girls looked very annoyed with Kurama. "What? You said to make sure they were secure for the trip," Kurama said with a shrug. "I told you to give them food, you idiot," Will yelled with shark teeth. "I gave them the bone after I ate it," Kurama said with a snicker. Will growled at this, her hair sparking at this, before Vivi patted her shoulder. "I have this. Mikita, please sit on him and keep adding weight until you hear a crack," Vivi said with a firm tone. "You got it, princess," Mikita said with a savage smirk as she walked over to the fox mink. "Say what? Oi, let me go, you psycho," Kurama yelled out before he was grabbed by Robin's hands and forced to lay down on the deck of the ship. As Mikita sat on Kurama's back, Naruto looked at Vivi with an impressed smirk, which Vivi saw. "What?" Vivi asked as she blushed a little bit. "Nothing, I'm just impressed you have such a mean streak. It's actually kinda hot," Naruto said as he smiled at her. Vivi blushed even harder at this, while Kurama screamed out in pain as Mikita increased her weight on his back. "Have you learned your lesson yet?" Mikita asked with a smirk at Kurama's screams. "Get off my back, fat ass. I can't feel my tails," Kurama yelled as he slammed his fists on the deck of the ship. "Oh? What's that? I should increase my weight cause you called me a fat ass," Mikita asked with a grin as she increased her weight some more. "Naruto, please help me. This is inhumane," Kurama bellowed as his back cracked, making him howl in pain. "Apologize to Mikita first," Naruto said firmly. "Ah. I'm sorry. For the love of God, I'm sorry," Kurama yelled out. Mikita smiled at this as she jumped up a little and slammed down on his back, making another crack ring out, causing Kurama to yell in pain before she returned her weight to normal. She then got up and walked over to the others. "For what it's worth, I think your ass is fine as is," Naruto whispered to Mikita as she passed him. Mikita blinked at this before she smirked and looked at Naruto. "Oh, is that a fact? Are you looking to break it in, like you did Nami?" She whispered back to him as she gave him a sexy grin. Naruto sputtered in surprise at this before he looked at Mikita, who was giggling mischievously. "I'm guessing Nami told you?" he whispered to her. "Yup. She told us all about the fun you two had in that changing room. And just so you know. I don't lock the door to my room," Mikita whispered into Naruto's ear sensually before she walked off with a sway to her hips. Naruto watched her walk away, making a mental note to take her up on her offer later. "You better tap that eventually, babe," Will said with a chuckle. "It's on my to-do list, woman. Let's just get through this," Naruto said as he shook his head at Will's antics. As they sailed, the sea began to get rougher. "Are we there yet?" Kurama yelled as he tried to hang onto the mast of the ship as it rocked since his back was still healing. "Ah. I don't want to die." Nami yelled out in a panic. "Don't worry Nami Swan, I'll protect you," Sanji yelled as he moved to her. "Naruto, protect me and we can go shopping again." Nami yelled as she hugged Naruto's arm between her breasts. Sanji fell over at this, an arrow sticking out of his back with rejection written on it. "Save me too and we can go shopping as well," Robin said as she hugged his other arm. "Don't forget about me," Vivi said as she hugged Naruto from behind. Sanji twitched at this as more arrows of rejection pierced his body. "Perverted cook," Zoro said. Sanji stood up and glared at him. "What was that, moss for brains?" he asked, getting his head close to Zoro's. "You heard me, or are you deaf too?" Zoro said as they grounded their heads together. "I'd later, focus on getting to Sky Island." Nami yelled at them as she and the other girls let go of Naruto before they went to get the ship ready. "Yes Nami dear," Sanji said with hearts in his eyes as he noodled away. "Whatever, greedy witch," Zoro said as he walked away. "The explosion's about to happen. Stay alert." Marissa yelled out. Everyone looked out at sea and saw they were approaching a massive hole in the middle of the sea. "AHH. It's a whirlpool." Chopper and Usopp yelled out in terror with their eyes and tongue bugging out. "You're gonna be sailing straight into that if you want to make it." Xiaoju yelled out. "How? Our ship is too small for these large waves." Nami yelled out. "I'll tow you towards it," Marissa yelled back as 2 tow lines were thrown at the front of the Going Merry where they latched onto either side of the figurehead. "Then what?" Sanji asked as he smoked a cigarette. "Go with the flow. Get as close as you can to the center of the whirlpool and don't back out," Marissa said with a grin as he gave them a thumbs up as the 2 ships sailed closer towards the giant whirlpool. "I hope that the ship doesn't get destroyed or else we'll all drown. And since most of us have devil fruit powers, we'll be the first to drown," Robin said nonchalantly. "Stop this. I want to go back." Usopp yelled in fear. "Give it up, Usopp. It's far too late for that. 2 of us are already riding high," Zoro said. "Let's go to Sky Island." Naruto and Luffy yelled out happily. "Good luck guys," Marissa yelled as he unhooked the tow lines from Going Merry as his ship sailed away while the Straw Hat sailed closer into the whirlpool. "See ya. Thanks for the help." Luffy yelled as he waved at them. "Tell Chestnut Head thanks as well." Kurama yelled as he gingerly waved at them as his back was still sore. "So, who wants to guess what we'll see on Sky Island before we get there?" Naruto asked with a smile. "I believe that we'll see beautiful angels as we'll be close enough to heaven," Sanji said with a love-struck smile. "Well, I reckon that we'll see giants who'll want to catch us, then grind our bones for their bread," Will said with a shrug. "AHH. Usopp and Chopper yelled out in fear. "Nami, what does the log pose say?" Robin asked, looking at the navigator. Nami looked at her wrist and saw that the log pose was pointing straight up. "We're right underneath the island," she said as she looked up at the sky. "Wait right there." A familiar voice yelled out, getting their attention. Everyone looked behind them and saw what looked like a raft nearby, which had Blackbeard and 4 other men with him, one being the old man and his horse Will had spotted before. Another was what looked like a wrestler, a second looked like he was wearing old clothes and a monocle over one of his eyes with a sniper leaning against his shoulder, and the third had a top hat and cane. "You're not going anywhere, Straw Hats. A few of you have high bounties. And I'm looking to cash them," and Blackbeard yelled out with a laugh as he and his crew held up the wanted posters. "Oh god damn it, you again," Naruto yelled out in annoyance as he recognized Blackbeard from their fight on Drum Island. "Oh, is that you, Whiskers? Well, I see that you found yourself a crew. Though I'm surprised that you didn't start your own," Blackbeard said. "Look, as fun as this conversation is, we have an appointment to keep," Will yelled, cutting Blackbeard off. "Yay, so why don't you go raid a buffet and scare some villagers by eating their cattle?" Kurama yelled out in annoyance. This got laughs from Zoro, Sanji, Chopper, Luffy and Usopp, while the others smiled. "You think you all can insult the captain and just sail away?" Burgess yelled out in annoyance as the Going Merry sailed into the whirlpool. "Ah. We're gonna die." Usopp, Chopper and Nami screamed out as they hugged each other. Just as they reached the whirlpool, it suddenly disappeared. "Hey, what happened?" Luffy asked in confusion as he looked around. "Is it over?" Vivi asked curiously. Before the area shook and a massive blast of water shot the Going Merry into the air while causing Blackbeard's ship to get pushed away. "Well, I'll be damned. They actually pulled it off." Zahahahahaha. Blackbeard laughed as he looked up at the sky. But the Straw Hats. The Going Merry was flying in the air towards the clouds in the sky and soon it entered the clouds themselves. "What the hell?" Naruto thought as he looked around while holding his breath as they were now under what looked like a sea of water and being pushed up to the surface. Soon enough, they broke the surface, and the ship was now standing in the middle of what looked like a sea of clouds as the wings on the ship broke off. Everyone on the ship gasped for breath as they laid about on the ship. "Everyone here?" "Sound off," Naruto yelled out as he stood up. Everyone groaned as they got up. "That was awesome. Let's go again." Luffy yelled out as he stood up with a wide smile on his face. Whack. Before Kurama and Zoro both stood up and slugged him in the head, sending him into the deck of the ship. "Not happening." Nami yelled out as she whacked his head even further into the ship. "Well, it looks like everyone is accounted for," Will said as she came up from below deck. "Why were you below? Oh, god damn it," Kurama was saying before he yelled out as he was tackled by a wave of dugongs, all barking as they attacked him. "Suffer for your crimes," is what they're saying, Chopper said, translating what the dugongs were saying. "Oh, they are so cute when they are getting revenge," Vivi said with a smile as they threw Kurama at Naruto's feet. "Wow, it's like we're on a sea of clouds," Usopp said as he looked out at the new sea they were on. "Don't go swimming as we're still on the clouds, so there's no bottom," Naruto said in warning. "But the log pose is still pointing up," Nami said as she looked at the log pose which was indeed still pointing up. Perhaps we didn't make it all the way up," Robin said as she looked up at the thick clouds above them. "Hey, I spy another ship," Sanji said as he pointed out at the sea, and nearby there indeed was another ship just sitting there. Did someone else take another knock upstream, or did they use the same one as us?" Usopp asked with a raised eyebrow. Before anyone could respond, the ship nearby suddenly exploded, sending debris and what looked like clouds flying. "What the hell?" Usopp yelled in a panic before he fell over in a dead faint. "Sky Island scary. Sky Island scary," he mumbled out. "Stay alert," Naruto and Will yelled as they spotted what looked like someone moving on top of the clouds. He was wearing a tribunal-type mask with horns and a grass skirt, while carrying a bazooka and some kind of shield. He also had what looked like small wings coming out of his back and tribal markings on his left shoulder. The man jumped onto the ship and took aim at the crew with his bazooka. "Beat this, Blue CSC," he was yelling out before. Slash. Kurama slashed at him with his claws that were covered in electro, destroying his mask and cutting his face slightly. "I'm sick of being attacked. You're strike 3, asshole," Kurama yelled before he swung his jit at the man, who spun away from Kurama. The man growled at this before he dodged a swipe from Will and ran off, surfing on the sea as he fled. "Yay, you better run, you punk ass," Kurama yelled as he raised his jit in the air. "Well, I'm glad you're still capable of fighting. I was getting worried you were losing your touch with how bad the dugongs kept kicking your butt," Will said as she smirked at Kurama. "Please, I may give them crap, but I'm not gonna hurt them. We're part of the same crew, right men?" he asked the assembled dugongs nearby. The dugongs all barked at this, while also pulling down their eyelids and waving their butts at Kurama. "They said, if you're so tough then prove it, you was," Chopper said, translating for them. "Next chance I get, I'm gonna put them through boot camp," Kurama said with a growl as his eyebrow twitched in annoyance. "I must say, I am most impressed with you all," a male voice said from above them. Everyone looked up and saw an old man dressed as a knight with a lance held in his hand, who was sitting on the railing of the ship next to a purple polka dot bird that was perched next to him. "Are you gonna attack us too, old man?" Luffy asked curiously. No. I was actually gonna assist you, but it would seem you didn't need my help, as your furred friend and the young lass had it covered," the old man said as he gestured to Kurama and Will. "Is it all so rough up here, old man?" Mikita asked curiously as Vivi woke up Usopp. "I'm afraid the Shandia tribe are not fans of blue seed dwellers," the old man said. "Is that what we're known as to you?" Robin asked curiously. The old man raised an eyebrow at this as he looked at Robin. "Do you all know nothing?" he asked in surprise. "Well, we just got here on the knock-up stream, Oji-san," Naruto said. The old man's eyes widened in shock at this. "People still use that treacherous route?" he said as he looked at the crew, surprised at this. "Wait, you mean there was a safer route?" Nami yelled with a twitching eyebrow before she grabbed Luffy and started to shake him by his throat. "We could have died because you wanted to fly up, you moron." "Is everyone on your crew accounted for?" the old man asked curiously. "Yay, we're all here," Luffy yelled as Nami shook him. "You are all lucky, as only a few of you might have survived the journey on the other route," the old man said. "Ah, so this was the best route," Sanji said as he nodded, as they definitely didn't like the idea of losing anyone on the crew. "So, what's your name, old man?" Will asked curiously. "My name is Ganfall, the Sky Knight. And this here is Pierre, my partner," the old man said as the bird gave a yell. "So Ganfall, how do we get to Sky Island?" Robin asked him. "You need to follow the current and you will come up to a check-in booth which will lead you up to Skypia. Though I must say, with all your pets, you will be charged quite a hefty sum, Ganful said, as he looked at the dugongs with a raised eyebrow. The dugongs all started to bark angrily at this, clearly annoyed at being called pets. They are part of our crew, Oji-san, Naruto said. Yay, these little guys protect our ship for us, don't you? Will asked the dugongs with a smile at them. This made the dugongs all smile and gain hearts in their eyes at this, as they barked at her. Ah, my apologies. I have never seen such creatures before. As a token of my apologies, please accept this, Ganful said, as he took out a whistle and tossed it to Luffy. What's it for? Vivi asked with a raised eyebrow. That is called a one whistle. Normally, I would charge you 5 million extols, but consider it a welcome gift in addition to an apology for insulting your crewmates. If you require my help, simply use it and I will show up in a hurry, Ganful said. 5 million. The crew all yelled together in shock. How much is that in berries? Nami asked nervously. Oh right. The currency exchange is 10,000 extols to 1 berry, Ganful explained. This caused Nami to face plant at this. Let's see, that would cost us about. Will said, as she did the math. It would be 500 berries, Sanji said, as he took a puff of his cigarette before blowing the smoke out of his mouth. That's not too bad, but I'm glad we're getting the whistle for free though, Nami said. I bet you are, greedy woman, Zoro muttered under his breath. Oh Zoro, don't forget that you still owe me 400,000 berries, Nami said with a wicked grin at him. Damn devil woman, Zoro grumbled out. Nami smirked at this, along with Will. I hope you realize Naruto doesn't put up with that crap, Will whispered to Nami. Well, duh. Like I would let him touch me if he did, Nami whispered back with a giggle as she and Will fist bumped. Anyway, just follow the current and you will make it. Now, I will take my leave, Ganful said, before Pierre turned into a really odd combo of a horse and a bird. That's one ugly looking Pegasus, Kurama said. Ah yes, I should mention that Pierre ate a horse fruit a while ago, Ganful said, as he hopped on Pierre's back. Well, it at least lets him fly around in style, Naruto said with a chuckle, as the Pegasus flew off. Okay, you lot, grab an oar and get moving. Nami yelled at the crew. Why? Luffy whined, as he was tired from the little amount of air up in this new sea. Think, rubber brain. There is no breeze up here, so get moving. Nami yelled out. Actually, I could use a wind technique to move us along, if you want, Naruto said with a smile, as he held up his hand. Good idea. You do that while we relax, Usopp said with a smile. Usopp, you fly ahead and scout ahead, Nami said firmly. Oh, come on. Usopp yelled at this. Don't be a baby, long nose, Sanji said, as he lit a cigarette. That's the price of being a devil fruit user. You are expected to help more, Robin said with a smile. Then why don't you use yours to grow more eyes and have a look? Usopp yelled at her. Cause I have a limit to how far I can be from where I can spawn, Robin said. Now quit yelling chicken boy and get flapping, Kurama said, as he threw Usopp's railguns at him, just in case. Usopp grumbled at this, as he put them on. Relax, I'll go with ya, just in case you need backup, Will said with a smile, as she grew her wings out and hovered in the air. Thanks, Usopp said with a nod of gratitude before he turned into his full eagle form and took off into the air, with Will close behind him. Meanwhile, Naruto was behind the sail and was taking some breaths and blowing some big breaths onto the sails to keep the ship moving at a steady pace, while Zoro, Chopper, Sanji and the dugongs were helping guide the ship with oars. Soon, they came up on a hill and saw what looked like a toll booth that said Heaven's Gate, which Will and Usopp were waiting by. See lady, we said we were just scouting ahead, Will yelled at an old woman who had wings coming out of her back and wore a pink dress. Yay, that's our crew, Usopp said, as he nodded at the old woman. The old woman nodded at this and waved at the ship. Hizo, she said in greeting, as she put one hand behind her head and lifted her index and pinky fingers. Is that a greeting? Luffy asked as he tilted his head to the side in confusion as Will and Usopp flew back to the ship. I'm gonna assume it's an equivalent to hello, Vivi said as she mimicked the old woman. Is this a toll booth? Naruto asked as he pulled up his sleeve to show his seal tattoo. Indeed it is, my boy. And I gotta say, with your group, including those animals, it will be a hefty sum too, the old woman was saying before. Thump. Naruto threw a big sack at her feet, which opened up and spilled out a whole lot of gold, money and jewels. Would that cover it, Bachan? Naruto asked with a smile. Normally I would charge you for calling me that, but you get a pass for paying promptly, kid. Welcome to Skypia, the old woman said as she pulled a lever and opened the way for the ship to go forward. Well, that was easy, Mikita said with a grin as the ship went forward. Yeah, but it wiped out most of the money I stole from Crocodile, Naruto said with a sigh. You all owe me money. Nami bellowed at the dugongs, who all cried in terror at making her mad. Now, I'm sure they will make up for this by helping search for gold, right? we'll ask the dugongs. The dugongs all started barking and cheering at this. They said they will search till their flippers are red, Big Sis Chopper translated for them. Once the ship had gone past the gate on the other side, two large claws came up out of the water and grabbed onto the broken wings. What the heck is that? Mikita yelled out in surprise as everyone looked over the sides of the ship. That's the speedy shrimp, which will carry you up to the white sea, the old woman said as the Going Merry was lifted out of the sea, showing it was on the shrimp's back. Thanks Bach-chan, Luffy said as he waved at her in thanks. Keep the change, Naruto said with a smile and a thumbs up before the shrimp took off up a large swirling cloud road. The old woman chuckled at this before she started to attempt to drag the bag of money into her office. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys, let me know in the comments section how was the story and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video, bye bye.